I think we're on.
Oh, yeah. Hold on one second, y'all. Let me turn on mic. Are you muted? How about now?
Yeah.
Oh, George fixed it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good morning, everybody. I'm gonna do
Recording in progress.
I'm gonna do a quick roll call to see who all we have on the meeting. Good morning. I'm George Duckling, committee chair. This is calling to order our pesticide committee. And Sam Angel, are you on?
Yes, sir.
All right, Sambo. Good to see you. Good to hear you. And
Glad
see
to be
you.
here.
Garrett, are you there? Garrett Frost.
He was gonna be traveling. He was a
Okay.
maybe.
All right. Matt Miles.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Nathan Reed. And Nathan Slayton, Dr. Slayton, are you on?
Good morning, George.
Good morning, Nathan. All right, I appreciate the attendance. Who else do we have online that's visiting or attending our meeting today? If you could just say your name for our records.
Hey, good morning, George. Matthew Marsh.
Oh, hello, Mr. Chairman. Good to have you aboard.
I'm gonna introduce some of my staff that's on, because I don't know if
Okay.
they have volume.
All
You've
right.
got Lee Gibson with the Department of Agriculture, Brandy Reynolds with the Department of Agriculture, Annalee Browder with the Department of Agriculture, and Scott Bray, the Director of Plant Industries.
Okay, hey, Director Scott.
Good morning, Mr. Dunklin and everybody else. Welcome.
Thank you very much. All right, well, I believe we're ready. We've got a quorum ready. We can do this meeting. Today, y'all, all the members should have gotten information from Susie about updating the rules under Act 389. And this is mainly just some housekeeping and cleanup. And apparently, Susie and I have been talking this morning, understand this has been in the works for 5 years. So a lot of work has been done to get this in line with the federal law. And so a lot of people have put a lot of hours into this document that y'all have. And as you can see, all the red line that's been on the document. But I'm gonna turn it over to let Susie explain more about what we're doing today, and then we'll call for a vote.
Real quick, before I start going through the rules I'm about to share with everybody, the Department of Agriculture has primacy to enforce FIFRA, the Federal Insecticide, Rodenticide, Fungicide Act. In order to implement this federal law, we have something called a certification and training plan that's approved by the Environmental Protection Agency. In this plan, it lays out all the state laws and rules that allow us to implement the federal law. This document had not been updated in probably over 50 years. And a few years ago, there was a federal law change that required all states to update this document. The law change was in regards to an age restriction and restricted use pesticides. So during this review, every aspect of this document was reviewed by EPA. And what I am going through today is what I'm going to refer to as cleanup items. We were already doing most of the things you're going to see in red today. Some of it was laid out in rules, some of it was laid out in laws, and some of it was laid out in the certification and training plan only. Now it's all under our rules. It's in one spot, and some cleanup items regarding names and categories. For example, instead of plant board, we've updated the names to Department of Agriculture. So give me just a second to share my screen and I'll go through the proposed changes. Hold on one second. Those it's loading, just bear with me. I click on the wrong one? Yes. Okay, hold on, y'all. I had to get my technical expert here.
On your new computer.
Yeah, she showed me how to do this right before the meeting. Apparently, I did not pay good attention. Yeah, wrong spot.
Susie,
Yes, sir.
Scott,
Yes.
you might note for the group that as you go through this document, it has been marked up in a program called track changes. And when different people work in the program, their changes will show up in different colors. So they're going to see some red and some blue, mostly red and blue. And there's really nothing, that doesn't mean anything. There's nothing distinguishing one from the other. It's just where one person worked in it and then another person, one of the attorneys, also made some updates. So just
Okay, thank you.
clarification.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I'm gonna start off, this is page 1. As you can see, the red that's underlined, this is one of the updates. The Arkansas Department of Agriculture adopts by federal reference 40 CFR 171-103C, the core standards of competency for all of the below noted categories of certified commercial and non-commercial applicators. Then we go down, and I'm just gonna go through these changes. We've crossed out plants, and the category will now be called crop. We've crossed out agriculture, produce, and lands. Pest control, that category is now referred to as the livestock category. The wood treatment category does stay the same. Then we go down to I, and we have an aerial pest control category. These were just updates to categories already being implemented. I'm going to go down to the next section where it says rules, commercial applicator. Under I, you can see where we added the word state in front of plant board. And then you go down, we added state in front of plant board. And in the next section, we struck plant board and referred to department. Then we struck out the following language: upon effective date of these rules, said documentation must be provided to the plant board June 2nd, 2022. As you can see, like I said, we updated that wording to change it from plant board to department.
So that's gonna be throughout the whole.
Yes.
Because when this was originally done, we weren't under the Department of Ag.
Yes, and some spots will still refer to the plant board as the full board, and some sections we had to update it depending on what the need was to Department of Agriculture. Again, this is just cleanup. We added the word at least under C. Go down to the next page. Bear with me just a second. Okay, under E, we just corrected the word wingspan. It was spelled incorrectly. Under G, we crossed out plant board, and that's been updated to department. And then you'll see we added the word state in front of plant board. Then below lowercase c, we have updated that terminology to the February 2020 ANSI ASAE 572.3 standard. Under B, we added the word state. Again, under C, the word at least has been added. These are all very minor cleanup items again. Next page, state plant board, department. Then we have department, and then we get down to C here in parentheses. The first C has been crossed out, and we've added the wording: in order to obtain a license from the Department, all commercial applicator technicians must complete the commercial applicator technician training program, which consists of the following. Number 1, commercial applicator technician training must be presented to commercial applicator technicians, either orally from written materials or in an audio visual format. The format this information must be presented in a manner that the commercial applicator technician understands, such as through a translator. The person conducting the training will present during the entire training program, must be present. Let me start over. I'm sorry, y'all. The person conducting the training will be present during the entire training program and must respond to the commercial applicator technician's questions. Number 2, the person who conducts the training is required to meet one of the following criteria: currently holds a license issued by the department as an applicator of restricted use pesticides, is currently designated as a trainer of certified applicators or pesticide handlers by the department, has completed an EPA-approved pesticide safety training, train the trainer program for trainers of handlers under 40 CFR 170. The commercial applicator technician training materials include the following information: potential hazards from toxicity and exposure that pesticides present to non-certified applicators and their families, including acute and chronic effects, delayed effects, and sensitization. Let's scroll down. Lowercase b, routes through which pesticides can enter the body. C, signs and symptoms of common types of pesticide poisoning. D, emergency first aid for pesticide injuries and poisonings. E, routine and emergency decontamination procedures, including emergency eye flushing techniques. Non-certified applicators must be instructed that if the pesticides are spilled or sprayed on the body, to immediately wash or to rinse off the nearest clean water. Non-certified applicators must also be instructed to wash or shower with soap and water, shampoo hair, and change into clean clothes as soon as possible. F, how and when to obtain emergency care. G, after working with pesticides, wash hands before eating, drinking, using, chewing gum, tobacco, or using the toilet. H, wash or shower with soap and water, shampoo hair, and change into clean clothes as soon as possible after working with pesticides. I, potential hazards from pesticide residues on clothing. J, wash work clothes before wearing them again and wash them separately from other clothes. K, do not take pesticides or pesticide containers used at work to your home. Potential hazards to children and pregnant women from pesticide exposure. M, after working with pesticides, remove work boots and shoes before entering your home and remove work clothes and wash or shower before physical contact with children or family members. How to report suspected pesticide misuse violations to the appropriate state or tribal agency responsible for pesticide enforcement. Format and meaning of information contained on pesticide labels and in the labeling applicable to the safe use of pesticides, including the location and meaning of the restricted use product statement. How to identify when the labeling requires the certified applicator to be physically present during the use of the pesticide, and information on personal protective equipment. P, need for an appropriate use of removal of personal protective equipment. Q, how to recognize, prevent, and provide first aid treatment for heat-related illness. R, safety requirements for handling, transporting, storing, and disposing of pesticides, including general procedures for spill cleanup. S, environmental concerns such as drift, runoff, and wildlife hazards. T, restricted use pesticides may be used only by a certified applicator or by a non-certified applicator working under the direct supervision of a certified applicator. U, the certified applicator's responsibility to provide to each non-certified applicator instructions specific to the site and pesticide use. These instructions must include labeling directions, precautions, and requirements applicable to the specific use and site, and how the characteristics of the use site. For example, surface and groundwater, endangered species, local population, and risk, and the conditions of application. For example, equipment, method of application, formulation, and risk. These might increase or decrease the risk of adverse effects. The certified applicator must provide these instructions in a manner the non-certified applicator can understand. V, the certified applicator's responsibility to ensure that each non-certified applicator has access to the applicable product labeling at all times during its use. W, the certified applicator's responsibility to ensure that, sorry, my mouse keeps getting in my way. The certified applicator's responsibility to ensure that where the labeling of a pesticide product requires that personal protective equipment be worn for mixing, loading, application, or any other use activities, each non-certified applicator has clean labeling required personal protective equipment in proper operating condition, and that the personal protective equipment is worn and used correctly for its intended purpose. X, the certified applicator's responsibility to ensure that before each day of use, equipment used for mixing, loading, transferring, or applying pesticides is in proper operating condition as intended by the manufacturer, and can be used without risk or reasonably foreseeable adverse effects to the non-certified applicator, other persons, or the environment. Why? The certified applicator's responsibility to ensure that a means to immediately communicate with the certified applicator is available to each non-certified applicator using restricted use pesticides under his or her direct supervision. I'm gonna pause for a second. I know that was a lot. This was already being done. These are items that are taught during training classes, typically by the University of Arkansas. We are just laying it out in our rules where it's easier to find now. Does anybody have any questions before I move forward? I speak quickly, so if y'all need me to slow down, just let me know. Okay. Going to move on to the next section. Licensed commercial applicators.
Shoot. Go this
Hello?
way.
Somebody have a question? Go ahead, Susan.
Okay, I think somebody just unmuted
Yeah.
for a second accident.
Yeah, okay, I was sure, I think it's corrected.
Go ahead and mute everybody.
Okay, sorry about that. Licensed commercial applicators supervising any commercial applicator technician must have access to records documenting the below required information at the commercial applicator's principal place of business for 2 years. From the date the commercial applicator technician applied the restricted use pesticide, prior to allowing a commercial applicator technician to use restricted use pesticide under his or her supervision, a licensed commercial applicator will create or verify the existence of a record containing the following information: the commercial applicator technician's printed name and signature, the date the commercial applicator technician training requirements described in the section were met, the name of the person who provided the commercial applicator technician training, the title or description of the training provided. And then we're going to scroll down. We just kind of updated the outline here. We had some extra spaces. Instead of seed treatment license, we added the word restricted use pesticide. There was an incorrect $100 extra fee. We removed it. And now it just shows the correct $35 fee. Now we're going to go to D. Commercial applicator, D. This is under commercial applicator technician, a fee of $5. That's where I'm starting. We crossed out CAT and spelled out the term commercial applicator technician. We crossed out plant board and updated that to department. Again, we crossed out CAT, updated that to commercial applicator technician. And at the end of the sentence, crossed out the word plant board and updated that to department. Under financial responsibility, we just corrected some capitalization, lowercase, it was an capital B, we changed it to a lowercase b. And then the next sentence down, same thing, capital B was changed to lowercase b. And as you can see, we've updated the outline formatting. Rule number 3, updated non-commercial, took the hyphen out of it and corrected it to one word, non-commercial. Then we go on, changed ASPB to Plant Industries Division because this is specific to the Plant Industry Division. And here in the last sentence, we crossed out ASPB, updated that to department. Again, non-commercial was updated to the correct spelling, no hyphen. And then we updated records for rule keeping, commercial and non-commercial. Again, this was already being done. It's just laid out in the rules now. Commercial and non-commercial applicator license shall keep and maintain for a period of at least 2 years routine operational records containing information of the kinds, amounts, uses, dates, and places of application of pesticide with the following information. A, the name and address of the person for whom the restricted use pesticide was applied. B, the location of the restricted use pesticide applied. C, the size of the area treated. D, the crop, commodity, the crop, commodity, stored product, or site to which the restricted use pesticide was applied. E, the time and date of the restricted use pesticide application. F, the brand of the product name of the restricted use pesticide application. G, the EPA registration number of the restricted use pesticide applied. H, the total amount of restricted use pesticide applied per location per application. I, the name and certification number of the certified applicator that made or supervised the application, and if applicable, the name of any non-certified applicator that made the application under the direct supervision of the certified applicator. Gonna scroll down to Rule 5, that's been updated to Rule 5, private applicator license. We've added the following statement: the Arkansas Department of Agriculture adopts by federal reference 40 CFR 171.105 C through E, the core standards of competency for all of the below noted private applicator categories. The following categories have been established for private applicator licensing and certification programs. The categories are A, general private applicator, B, fumigation, C, aerial pest control. Then we go down to initial certification. Again, we're updating the outline formatting numbers. We have added the statement: the certification will be valid for 1 5-year license or 5 consecutive 1-year license. In no case shall a certification make a person eligible for a licensure in excess of 5 years. Okay, then we go down to B, again, did I miss department?
No.
Oh, sorry. Updated the outlining format, changed state plant board to department. And then we scroll down and we cross this statement out because we, moved it up a few lines. Then, again, as you can see, I'm not gonna go through all the outline Roman numeral changes. I'm just kind of leaving that up to y'all to look at as I scroll through. And then right here, we have changed plant board to department. We have updated the correct symbol here used by the federal standard. Plant board to department. Changed 1 to I. We're gonna go down to rule number 6, commercial and private certification. Maintenance of continued competency. A, certification expiration. In order for a certified applicator certification to continue without interruption, the certified applicator must be recertified under this section before the expiration of their current certification. Just for reference, everyone, certification refers to training. That's just the fancy term we use. Each commercial applicator certification shall expire 3 years after issuance, unless the applicator is recertified in accordance with this section. Each private applicator certification shall expire 5 years after issuance or annually for up to 5 consecutive years after issuance, unless the applicator is recertified in accordance with this section. Process for recertification: written examination. Commercial and private applicators may recertify through a written examination given by the department. Test questions are obtained from a National Association of State Departments of Agriculture Research Foundation test bank by the University of Arkansas. These questions are provided to the pesticide section staff for final approval to ensure the applicator demonstrates the level of competency required in 40 CFR 171.103, 40 CFR 171.105. Examinations shall conform to the applicable standards for examinations set forth in 40 CFR 171.103 A2, 40 CFR 171.105H. An applicant must receive at least a 70% or higher grade for recertification. Separate exams are provided to commercial and private applicators. The mouthful. Let me move on to B. Continuing education programs. Commercial and private applicators may be found eligible for recertification upon attending a continuing education program of training approved by the University of Arkansas and Arkansas Department of Agriculture. Now we're going to go on to the quantity, content, and quality. In order for a continuing education program to count towards recertification, the content must be sufficient to ensure the applicator continues to demonstrate the level of competency required by 40 CFR 171.103. for commercial applicators, or 40 CFR 171-105 for private applicator. Again, the CFR is the code of federal, registration, and we are just referring back to the federal law. A, an applicant may attend the annual pesticide applicator training offered by County Cooperative Extension Office for recertification. B, an applicant may attend a pesticide training provided by a third party, so long as the provisions of 2B below are met. The content of this training must include core and/or category-specific competency standards as described in 40 CFR 171-103 or 40 CFR 171-105 for commercial or private applicators respectively. To count towards recertification, programs and agendas must include all of the following: safety, labeling, protective gear, pesticide handling, first aid, toxicity, and symptoms of poisoning, etc. Integrated pest management, pest identification, biology, scouting, inspecting, alternative methods of control, non-pesticide, baits, etc. Application equipment and/or methods of application, types of equipment, different methods of application, calibration and equipment precautions, etc. Next page. Environmental concerns, waste container disposal, cleanup, ground surface water protections, drift, if applicable, and wildlife protection, if applicable. Laws and regulations, updates on pertinent laws and regulations, certification, recertification requirements as appropriate. Okay. Approval by certifying authority. The Arkansas Department of Agriculture works in coordination with the University of Arkansas Cooperative Extension Office Agriculture Program Specialists to develop training and testing for recertification. Continuing education programs conducted by the University of Arkansas Extension Office are coordinated with Arkansas Department of Agriculture to meet the requirements of 40 CFR 171-103 for commercial and 40 CFR 171-105 for private applicator. ADA staff monitor continuing education classes to ensure that required content is covered. For an outside training program to be approved, the agenda or syllabus must be submitted to the Arkansas Department of Agriculture pesticide staff and the University of Arkansas Cooperative Extension Office Agriculture Program Specialist for review. Verification of applicator course completion. In order to qualify for recertification, an attendance list or certification form with verifying information and/or signature is required to be submitted to the Arkansas Department of Agriculture for online recertification. A completion certification is required to be submitted to the Arkansas Department of Agriculture. And then we crossed out the below. And then we go on to rule number 7. And it used to be referred to as pilot license, and now it's being called aerial pest control. It's just a name change. Then we go to rule number 8, pesticide dealer license. We added and/or, crossed out state and added Arkansas, restricted use. And then we added a reference to the Arkansas rules on pesticide classification as adopted under Acts 389 and 410 of 1975. We crossed out reference to the designation of the E and F categories. And then we added and/or Arkansas classified restricted use pesticide. We took out state classified pesticides with the E and F designation. Move on to the next section. Each licensed dealer outlet shall maintain a record of restricted use pesticides distributed. Records must be maintained for the period of at least 2 years. Records of each such transaction must include the following information: name and address of the resident or principal place of business of each certified applicator, to whom the restricted use pesticide was distributed or sold, or if applicable, the name and address of the resident or principal place of business of each non-certified person to whom the restricted use pesticide was distributed or sold for application by a certified applicator. The certification number on the certification document presented to the seller, evidence showing the valid certification of the certified applicator authorized to purchase the restricted use pesticide, the state, tribe, or federal agency that issued the certification document, the expiration date of the certified applicator certification, and the categories in which the applicator is certified relevant to the pesticide sold. The product name, EPA registration number, If it's restricted use pesticide, distributed or sold in the transaction, including any applicable emergency exemption or state special local need registration number. The quantity of the restricted use pesticide distributed or sold in the transaction, the date of the transaction. We go down and rule 7 has now been changed to rule number 9. We added, the EPA symbol. And that is it. And I know, hold on. We've got one more where we changed the word plant board to department. And we added the word state. Again, I know that was a mouthful. Nothing you just looked at is anything new. This has all been done. It basically covered training, retraining, record keeping, and the phrasing now lines up with federal laws. Scott, do you have anything to add?
No, nothing else to add. Thank you. Good job, Susie.
Sorry, I know that was a mouthful. That was not easy to read. If y'all don't have any questions, I'm gonna turn it over to George for y'all to
Okay.
make a motion if y'all would like to accept this.
Hey, Susie,
Go ahead.
George, this is Nathan. I've got, you probably think it's nitpicky, but, if you could change a couple of things in there, from University of Arkansas to University of Arkansas Division of Ag. And then the other one, was you talked about the Cooperative Extension Office, if you would change office to service in those references.
Okay, so anywhere it says University of Arkansas, you would like for us to change it to University of Arkansas Division of Ag.
Correct.
And instead of Cooperative Extension Office, Cooperative Extension Service.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Scott, attorneys on the line, any issues, concerns with that?
No, I don't see any issues at all with that.
Sounds good.
I'm not gonna change this real time, if that's okay. I'm gonna just add it to the motion and change it after the meeting. Is that okay?
Sounds good.
Okay, I just want to ensure I don't miss a spot.
Thank you, Nathan, for those
Thank you.
corrections. Anything else? Anybody else have any corrections that we need to do before I ask for the motion? Hearing none, can I get a motion from one of our members?
Make a motion that we approve with stated changes.
Okay, thank you, Sam. A
I'll
second?
second it.
Okay, thank you, Matt. And any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, motion passes.
Yeah, thank y'all for bearing with me. I know that was a lot.
Do we have anybody have anything else you want to bring up in the pesticide meeting? Before we adjourn? Hearing none, I appreciate it. Susie, thank you. I think it's important that we did go line by line with all the changes. I know that took some time to do, but we can honestly say we've been through the document.
Well, like I said, I kind of
And we'll,
rushed through the outline part of it,
No,
but
no.
I assumed everyone was following.
yeah, they were. And we'll bring this up for the full plant board for approval at our next meeting. Okay, hearing no other business, can I have a motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Sam. Second, Matt?
Second.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, meeting's adjourned. Thank y'all very much.
Thank y'all very much. Have a good day.
Appreciate
Yes,
it.
sir.
All right,
Recording stopped.
thank you, ladies.